Hey guys, so I just want to go over the myth of saturated fat being bad for you. Um, this is really not true. It's a persistent myth, and just recently in the last few years they've started to really change the mainstream perspective of saturated fat, but it's definitely a long time running. There's 40 or 50 years of ingrained thought process that saturated fat is bad for you, and saturated fat is going to give you heart disease, saturated fat is going to make you fat, and saturated fat is going to basically kill you. You want to limit it from your diet. And there really isn't that much there's actually no research supporting that. It originally came out of a study done years ago, and the thought process was that if you ate more saturated fat, you would then raise your cholesterol. And as we already know, if you watch some of my other videos and other videos online, cholesterol doesn't give you heart disease. They're not even connected. Cholesterol is actually a protective substance, and actually is beneficial for you, and your body will produce it regardless of your intake. But back to saturated fat. Saturated fat does not raise your cholesterol. They're independent, and saturated fat is basically a pure fuel source for you. People have been eating it for thousands, if not millions of years. You've got the Inuit in the Arctic, they're getting as much as 70 to 80% of their calories from saturated animal fats. Same with the Maasai people of Africa, the Plains people of North America. There are just examples all over the place of these tribes people, and they lived almost entirely on saturated fat. There's actually a decent amount of research that shows hunters would literally go out and selectively pick the fattest animals to hunt to give them the best fuel to live the best, and it was actively seeked out for sustenance. And obviously these people had pretty well perfect health. Heart disease effectively was unknown 100 years ago, and you had many people around the world eating high-fat, saturated fat in their diets and not getting heart disease. So you don't have to worry about saturated fat and heart disease. It's a long time sort of myth instilled in our society, so it's going to take a bit of mind strength to actually rip that sort of association with saturated fat and heart disease. They're two separate things, and you can't categorize them together. And in the same stroke of conversation, saturated fat will also not make you fat. That's the next thing people think of. They're thinking of calories. They're thinking of how dense the number of calories are in saturated fat. But again, it doesn't work like that. Fat production is because of eating too many carbohydrates and spiking your insulin. So it's not the fat. Fat will actually satisfy you, make you fuller, and you will actually, and at the end of the day, eat less and eat exactly what your body wants, because you're not going to have those food cravings and those food spikes, because your brain is mostly fat. A lot of the processes in your body require fat, so if you actually supply your body with all of that fat, you will feel more full, your body will be more satisfied, and you won't get fat. So don't worry about fat making you fat. You can't think of it in that context. You've got to start thinking about fat as a good thing, saturated fat as a good thing, and you can do a bit more research into that. There's plenty out there now starting to dispel that myth. It's a very persistent myth in our society, but slowly but surely we can tweak people's perspectives and get them to realize that it's really not that bad, and can actually be a very good part of your diet.